Well, good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, the 22nd of September, 2020, and I am not in my ordinary digs, am I? We are in Lexington, Kentucky this morning, and we are at a conference for church workers, pastors, even regular folk as well. Had a wonderful service last night, heard two sermons, and so I'm in a house that we rented for the week so that we could hunker down and have a home base. And so, yeah, probably 7:45 to 8 o'clock. That's when we're going to be doing this, at least today, tomorrow, Thursday, and probably Friday too. We're traveling on Friday to head on back, but we're still going to do it. It's just off kilter, which has been the story of most of September, hasn't it? So we started the book of Exodus yesterday, and we saw that there was a new king in Egypt that did not know did not know Joseph, and so the children of Israel were no longer getting preferential treatment there. In fact, the new king was concerned that he was going to lose his kingdom if the children of Israel outpopulated the Egyptians, or if they chose to side with an enemy and overthrow the government. So he started telling all the midwives to kill all the male Hebrew babies. Well, these midwives were not going to do that. They were going to stay faithful to God. And so they refused to do it. He notices male babies continue to be born. He says, "Why aren't you doing what I told you to do?" And they told him, "Well, you know, these Hebrew women, by the time we show up to the house to help, they've already given birth." And so he said, "Well, then start throwing these baby boys into the river. We don't want them around. We don't want them surviving." And so that's where we left off yesterday. So we're going to pick it up in chapter number 2, verse number 1. "And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him, that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months." So instead of putting him in the river, instead of killing him, she kept him secret for 3 months. Notice here, both these parents are of the tribe of Levi. Now, this is Moses that they're speaking of here, that was born and hid. And so both of Moses' parents were Levites. It's from the tribe of Levi that the priests came. It's very interesting, isn't it, that God would choose a man from the tribe of Levi to then lead his people out of Egypt. Verse 3. "And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off, to wit what would be done to him." Boy, this is an interesting glimpse into Moses' family life, isn't it? So his mom makes this little boat, just a boat big enough for a 3-month-old boy, and she makes it so that it'll float and that it won't have water break through. We've read about pitch before, haven't we? Noah used that to seal the ark up. And so she puts him in the water. So she obeyed Pharaoh technically. She put him in the river, but she didn't drown him as Pharaoh would have desired. And so Moses is alive, his sister standing by, and she's watching what's going on here with him. What a heartbreaking moment this must have been for the family, but Moses' mother is just trusting God. She's trusting that the Lord is going to take care of her son. Verse 5, let's see what happens to him. "And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, 'This is one of the Hebrews' children.' Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, 'Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?' And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, 'Go.' And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, 'Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.' And the woman took the child and nursed it." Boy, look at what's happened here. Moses gets in the river, Pharaoh's own daughter. She goes down to the river to take a bath. She sees the little boat. She hears the crying. She gets the little boat, finds Moses in there. Her heart breaks over this little crying baby, and she says, she's thinking about what she's going to do with it. Moses' sister here. Remember, verse 4, Moses' sister, presumably Miriam, she sees what's happening here. And verse 7 said, Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women? So is there one of the Hebrew women that still has her milk, that's still nursing her children? And so Miriam, Moses' sister, presumably, I don't know that for sure, runs back and tells her mom, hey, Pharaoh's daughter found Moses in the river, and she needs someone to nurse him. And so they take the baby back to Moses' mother, and she's able to nurse him until he's weaned. Also, she got paid to do it. This is the providence of God all over this thing, isn't it? Where Jochebed, which is Moses' mother, she's willing to let her son go, and then he's found, he's brought right back to her so that she can continue to nurse him and raise him, and then she's getting paid to do it. It's just beautiful how it all comes together. Now, Moses' life in chapter 2 is going to really speed up. It's going to be fast forward. So let's keep reading. Verse number 10. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, and she said, Because I drew him out of the water. So it's not his own mother that names him Moses. It is the Pharaoh's daughter that calls him this. Verse 11. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown. See there? We just flew right through his childhood, didn't we? We went from 3 months old to grown man. That he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting in Hebrew, one of his brethren. So Moses knows he's not Egyptian. He knows there's something different about him. So he would go out and he would just watch his people. And he'd watch them work and he'd watch them live and serve. And on this particular day, he sees an Egyptian hitting a Hebrew. He's punching him or hurting him somehow. Verse 12, and he looked this way and that way. That's kind of funny, isn't it? He's like, is anybody looking here? And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And so he looks around, nobody's looking. And so this Egyptian that's hurting this Hebrew, Moses goes up to him and kills him. And then he buries his body in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. So now it's not an Egyptian fighting a Hebrew. 2 Hebrews are fighting each other. And he said to them that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? So he's intervening in this quarrel, this fight. And he says, hey man, what are you doing hitting this guy? What's your problem? And he said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me, as thou killest the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known. So this is interesting, right? He looks this way and that before he kills the Egyptian, and he buries him in the sand. So either one of 2 things happened. Either he didn't see someone who was there watching, or the Hebrew that he saved from the Egyptian squealed on him. Either way, the word is out that Moses has killed an Egyptian now, and this jerk here who's fighting with one of his brothers, he says, what, are you going to kill me like you killed the guy yesterday? You know, my goodness, there's some jealousy probably going on there, some envy, because Moses as a Hebrew is growing up in an Egyptian home, let alone the home of Pharaoh and so forth. But Moses is afraid now because what he did in killing the Egyptian is known. Verse 15. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. So, sort of his grandfather, right? Because he grew up with Pharaoh's daughter as a mother. But Pharaoh hears what Moses did. He's going to kill him. So Moses flees, and he's down in Midian. Verse 16, now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. And they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, and where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man. And he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. So Moses flees to Midian because of Pharaoh's threat on his life. While he's down there, he sees this group of girls trying to get water for their flocks, but these shepherds are keeping them from the well. So Moses comes in and defends. Do we see this now? The third time in this chapter where Moses steps up to intervene when injustice is being done. He intervenes with the Egyptians fighting the Hebrew. He intervenes with the 2 Hebrews fighting. Now he intervenes when the shepherds are keeping these girls from watering their flocks. And he's always standing up for the underdog. Is it any wonder that God chose this man to deliver his people from Egypt? He's one who stands up for those who are being taken advantage of. And so he shows up, he shoos the shepherds away, he waters the flocks for the young ladies. They go home. They get home early, and the dad says, what are you doing here so soon? Said, well, this guy helped us water our flocks. Well, where is he? Let's get him here. Let's feed him. Let's take care of him. So Moses shows up. They hit it off. He moves in. He starts working for this man, who we'll find out eventually his name is Jethro. And we see that he marries his daughter Zipporah. And he has a son named Gershom. So we went in this chapter from Moses being 3 months old to being married with a boy. God just gave us the Cliff Notes versions here, didn't he? But he tells us some very important things. He shows us the heart of Moses. He shows us his own providence and the fact that he took care of, let's see, where am I at? He took care of Moses while he was under the care of Pharaoh's daughter. And there's only 3 verses left. Verse 23, it came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. So now the children of Israel, they're crying to God, they're complaining to God, they've been enslaved, and this current Pharaoh dies. And so God looks at this window of opportunity and decides he's going to do something. Verse 24, and God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. And so God always honors his promises. He promised Abraham, Isaac, Jacob that he would bless their seed, that he would make of them a great nation. He knew he was going to do this enslaving, but now that's run its course. God has done for those people what he intended to do. So a couple of lessons here. We've already mentioned them, but the sovereignty of God in Moses' mother, being able to take care of him again and nurse him until he was weaned, and then get paid for it on top of that. What an incredible blessing. God was all over that. And at the same time, Miriam was paying attention. You got to give her a little bit of credit because she was the one that went down to the river and suggested, hey, want me to get one of these Hebrew women to nurse him for you? So, God puts opportunities in front of us all the time. We need to be wise enough to pay attention and see where those opportunities might lie. Secondly, we see the heart of Moses, if I can keep these names straight. We see the heart of Moses trying to help the people that are being taken advantage of. He's standing up for them, and it's that character that he has and that trait of wanting to help the less fortunate that's going to be used of God to help him deliver his people. And then we see here that God is faithful. And even though he may allow us to suffer trials for a season, he is going to make sure that we're taken care of. All right, that's all I got for you this morning. 15 minutes in and out of chapter number 2. Thanks for watching. Sorry we're off schedule. It's just that way sometimes. I could record these and post them, but I really like doing them live. I think you prefer doing them live, so we'll just keep doing it this week. Probably 7:45 to 8:15, somewhere in there is where we're going to hit, okay? All right, God bless you. Have a great Tuesday. Like, love, and share the post, please. We'll see you later.